Azeem, that was a great talk again. You seem to enjoy doing these. Is it something you like, addressing other entrepreneurs?
Well, I certainly like to let people know some of the lessons that I've learned, some of the mistakes that I've learned throughout my entrepreneurial and business careers, to ensure that I pass the knowledge on so they don't make the same mistakes, or give them some of the advice that I've accumulated over a number of years. Yes, I certainly do enjoy it. I certainly do enjoy engaging with people at various levels.
I was particularly interested in the part you said about setting goals, and I just wondered, do you set goals for other people, or do you pretty much insist that they set their own goals, or if it's a project you're involved in, do you like to set the goals for other people?
Everybody has to set their own goals in terms of personal goals, and whether that be physical goals, spiritual goals, or everything else, because everybody wants different things out of life, and it depends what you want out of life. Everyone has their own vision of what they envisage success to be, and you set the goals accordingly. But in terms of goals for a corporation, that's different. Every corporation has to have a very clear idea as to why it exists and the mission of that organisation. And I made that very clear in the lecture I gave today. That the purpose of the organisation has to be very clear to every single employee in that organisation, because they have to buy into that vision. They have to buy into that goal set, into that mission. Otherwise, there'll be confusion, and the organisation will go adrift.
Just staying with the goals thing for a minute, you mentioned earlier that you admitted that one of your greatest mistakes was not realising the state of the banks. What does that do in terms of goals then? Do you have to then reset the goals?
Well, each of the goals, like I mentioned, you have to continuously revise them. You have to continuously go back and forth, tick off the ones that I've done, add new ones, and revise some of the old ones as the environment changes. The goals are quite flexible. You can't have yourself working towards the goals unless the goals work for you in the first place. So each of the times that a drastic event happens, you have to go back to the drawing board, look at what you've got, and look at the strategies and the tactics you have in place, and revise them accordingly.
One of the other things that we talked about tonight, somebody asked a question about the sort of green issue, and you were quite vocal about the fact that you thought Scotland could be a major force in the whole green issue. I just wondered if you could give us an idea. You obviously travel around it a lot. What's the outside world's perception of the UK and more importantly of Scotland right now?
Yeah, well, I actually did some research on this a few years back, and the research showed that 90% of people in the European Union had a very favourable opinion of Scotland, but 90% of them also had absolutely no idea where Scotland was. They use the term Scotland, they use the term England and the UK interchangeably. For example, the English Army in Iraq or the Queen of England. But where does Scotland come into all of this? People just didn't actually have any idea at all. And I think this is something that we can certainly work upon. Scotland, many people do not know, has contributed more to world progress and development. They have had more discoveries and innovations than most other nations on earth. In fact, I believe they're the second highest apart from Switzerland. This is something that we have to capitalise on. We have to capitalise on our history of innovation and discovery, and show that Scotland is actually a world leader. We're world leaders in terms of entrepreneurial innovation and discovery, and so that's something that we have to really, really capitalise on.
You seem to be a very passionate ambassador for Scotland. Is that a role that you enjoy playing?
Absolutely. Whenever I'm travelling, I'm always trying to promote Scotland as best as I can. And in fact, last year I was very fortunate to receive the St Andrews Society Distinguished Citizens Award for being the Scot who has done the most to promote Scotland on the international stage. So I was greatly honoured to actually do that. And particularly in the United States, where I spend a considerable amount of my time, and I try to promote Scotland as best as I can and further Scotland's interests. And personally, right now, what's taking up most? I know you compartmentalise all your activities, but what's
taking up most of the time? What's taking up most of your interest at the moment?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I'm working on a couple of policy initiatives, which I'm going to pass on to the US government on two particular fields. One of them is anti-radicalisation, and the other one is improving the image of the United States around the globe. And I'm going to be presenting those in July at the US Congress. So they're taking up quite a bit of my time. Something I'm very excited about to make a contribution towards.
Azeem, thanks for coming along tonight. Thanks for being such a great ambassador for Scotland, and I wish you all the best with your future endeavours.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here.